What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'm Wayne G, joined as always by Mark D. What's going on, Mark?
I'm pretty good, Wayne. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Happy Hanukkah.
Absolutely. Happy holidays. And we are the NFL experts. I didn't say that when we started, but if you're watching, you probably already know that. And we are going to talk about some holiday categories early on before we get into the football stuff because there were a couple of things and 'tis the season. So I definitely want to dive into those. And we got John's joining right from the jump. Thank you, John, for joining the show. What's up? Nice to see you
What
joining
up,
the show.
John?
So let's get into our first category of holiday categories. And this is one that we just said to each other here, the holiday greetings, if you will, which is happy holidays or Merry Christmas. Now, the reason I bring this up is because there is that alleged war on Christmas, which doesn't actually exist. But there are people who feel like saying Merry Christmas is offensive or, Happy Holidays. Sometimes I say Happy Holidays to people. They say, it's Merry Christmas. So I wanted to get your take, Mark. Do you have a preference of which one you say when you initiate the season's greeting?
To be honest with you, man, growing up, I always said Merry Christmas. I've never been the PC type to be like, Happy Holidays, everybody. Me, it's Merry Christmas. And now as an adult, I'm kind of in spite of everybody. You don't like Happy Holidays, whatever. If you don't like Merry Christmas, whatever, I'm going to tell you Merry Christmas.
So my philosophy on it is this, because I'm very PC and I try to include everybody as much as I possibly can. I'm a very giving and thoughtful person. But the reason I say happy holidays when I initiate the season's greetings. However, if somebody else initiates the season greetings, I repeat back to them whatever they say to me. So if they say Merry Christmas, I say, oh, Merry Christmas to you too, because I think that's polite to just say whatever they said, you say it back. If they say Happy Holidays, I say Happy Holidays. And if they say Happy Hanukkah, I'm not Jewish, but I'll say, hey, Happy Hanukkah to you as well. Because you know what? It's just polite and it is the season.
I agree. I can see that. So I should maybe take more of that case also, Wayne, and stop being so anti PC.
Yeah, why not? Just, more inclusive and like I said, just friendly with everybody. John does say before Christmas he says Merry Christmas, and after Christmas he says Happy Holidays. I guess referring to New Year's. And again, some people do that. Me personally, I said I just like Happy Holidays. I think it's all inclusive. I actually did get a little bit annoyed. I went to a store on Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve, and the cashier who was bringing people out kept saying Merry Christmas to everybody. And it did bother me a little bit, not because, again, and I'm not offended by the fact that he said Merry Christmas because I celebrate Christmas, so it shouldn't bother me at all. But it was the fact that he was saying it to everybody, like almost like assuming that they all celebrate Christmas, And I was like, why wouldn't you go with, especially at a store, like a big chain store, why wouldn't you be saying Happy Holidays? That seems like the legit thing to do.
Yeah, you think they would have coached him on it and be like, you don't want to offend anybody, so say Happy Holidays.
But that's what I'm saying. Even Happy Holidays people find offensive, because it's not Merry Christmas.
True.
We do have Mark says, Happy Holidays covers it all. I agree, Mark. Covers everything.
What
Happy
up,
Kwanzaa.
Bubba?
Yeah, everything. There's no downside to it. Merry Christmas when the Raiders beat the Chiefs, and after that, it's Happy Holidays. That was Christmas. All right. Perfect. So that was our first holiday category. Nice, easy one. This one might get a little contentious. So if you have a horse in this race, please let us know. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Now, this is an argument that I've had at every single family get-together I've been at around the holidays. And I know Mark has a way that he feels. I've taken a more diplomatic approach, which I'll explain in a minute. But I do have a feeling about it personally. Now, Mark has a different feeling than me. So, Mark, what is your take? And why do you have this take about Die Hard, the movie?
Okay, well, before I get into that, let me ask you, what is the definition of a Christmas movie?
Excellent. Glad you asked that question. So, here's where I get diplomatic, right? And this is where my Happy Holidays kicks in. The definition of a Christmas movie is different for each and every person. The end, right? So we all have our own criteria. Now, I'm glad you asked me mine because I happen to have an image, and it says Wayne's Christmas movie criteria.
Wow, Wayne.
So in order for it to be a Christmas movie, it has to meet one of these three criteria. Only one. Doesn't have to meet all three. Number one, it has to have Christmas in the title. If it has Christmas in the title, it is a Christmas movie, like Nightmare Before Christmas or A Christmas Carol. Those are Christmas movies. Is it about Christmas? Now, taking place at Christmas does not mean that it's about Christmas. It means it takes.
Why does that not count?
Because it doesn't count as being about Christmas. About Christmas is like what would be a movie that's about like the Polar Express. The Polar Express does not have Christmas in the title, but the whole movie is about finding Christmas and believing in Christmas. So it meets number 2. And then number 3 is it about a Christmas element? Now, a Christmas element would be elves, presents, Santa, reindeer, right? So like the movie Elf, for example, is a Christmas movie, despite the fact that it's not about Christmas and it does not have Christmas in the title. Elf is about a guy finding his dad, but he's an elf. It's a Christmas element. Therefore, it's a Christmas movie. Gremlins is a Christmas movie. Movies that are not: Die Hard, It's a Wonderful Life, Home Alone, and Frosty.
Okay, wait a minute. How is Gremlins a Christmas movie by your criteria?
It's about a Christmas present.
Okay, so you're saying, so out of all your things, right? I get them, but how come I still don't understand why a movie that's going on that happens actually during Christmas time? How is that not a Christmas movie when it's going on during Christmas time?
Because that's not one of my criteria. It has to be about Christmas or an element of Christmas or have Christmas in the title. Taking place at Christmas doesn't get. There's a scene in the movie Rudy that takes place at Christmas. So is Rudy a Christmas movie?
No, that's different because that's like a whole lifespan of time for Rudy. Die Hard was basically based on one night during Christmas.
Well, again, it just doesn't meet my criteria. Those are my criteria. Now, let me get your criteria. Why does this fit the Christmas movie mold?
Well, I'm not saying that I don't have honestly, Wayne, I don't have a criteria when it comes to Christmas movies. I'm basing my argument off of that the movie is based on during the time of Christmas. Granted, it's not a Christmas movie. It doesn't involve Santa or elves or whatever, but it does involve a Christmas party.
Okay.
John McClane is invited to a Christmas party where his wife is at. And then everybody knows what ensues after. And I'm just going to give you a few samples of why it's a Christmas movie because it's based on Christmas. In the beginning of the movie, he gets a parking ticket. And he tells the cop, "Oh, come on, man, it's Christmas." And the guy goes, "Oh, no. He gives him a ticket anyway. Then later on in the movie, while all the drama's ensuing and everything's going on, he kills one of the guys and he sends him through the elevator or whatever. And he has on his shirt, "Ho, ho, ho, now I have a gun." Yep. That's example number 2. At the very end of the movie, they both were like, I forget exactly the line, but they both say something like, "Oh, why did we do this as Christmas?" or something like that. Those are 3 examples that it's Christmas.
And I'm not refuting or disputing the fact that this takes place during Christmas. I admit it does. I just don't have that as one of my criteria for what makes a Christmas movie.
But a lot of the reason why people consider it a Christmas movie is because it happens during Christmas at a Christmas party.
And that's why I made my peace with the fact that just because somebody thinks something doesn't mean that they're right, nor are they wrong. Just like I'm not right or wrong, because there is no such thing as right or wrong. That's a whole deeper conversation. But we just have opinions about it. I gave you the criteria that I have, and I won't be a hypocrite, which is why Home Alone's not a Christmas movie, why Frosty the Snowman's not a Christmas movie, because they also don't fit my criteria. So I try to stay consistent and not, a hypocrite.
All right. Like I said, agree to disagree, but I'm not going to say it's a Christmas movie, but I think that because it's during Christmas, that's why it's get construed as that, and it can be construed as that.
Well, I'm gonna run through these comments, and you're gonna have one that. So John Peebles says it's a classic, absolutely a classic.
Hell
movie,
yeah,
one of the best movies. I love it.
One of my favorite top 5 of all time.
He does put Home Alone again. Home Alone doesn't have Christmas in the title. It's not about Christmas, and it's not about a Christmas element, and therefore it doesn't.
I'm gonna get into Home Alone later with the next topic with you, Wayne.
Okay, perfect. Mark says Die Hard, not a Christmas movie. The central theme is not around Christmas. Thank you. That's one of my criteria. It just happens during Christmas. That's what I said. And Mark follows it up by saying, Mark, then
yes, Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
It is not a Christmas movie.
I'm just messing. It's not. I'm busting your balls.
NFL experts are talking movies. Come on. Well, hey, it's the holiday season, my friend. My favorite movie is talking football. Well, okay.
So maybe we should get to football. Let's get to our last topic, Wayne, and then we'll get to our football.
Well, I'm going through the comments here. So what's Russell's favorite Christmas movie? The Great Escape. We're going to talk about Russell. It's going to be a Christmas present. You guys get to open by surprise. Let's see, week 17. And then we have, like on Christmas, the Raiders are the Santa Claus, true Santa Claus. Okay. Well, that's where we're at with the Christmas movie thing. I made my peace with it. We can obviously agree to disagree. The last Christmas category we have before we start talking football, everybody, is going to be Christmas music. And I have Mariah Carey here because she has probably the most famous Christmas song every year. We hear it 10,000 times. Now, Mark, you don't have to come up with a top 5. I know I said top 5, and you said there were only 3 that you had. I'm just curious what your favorite Christmas songs are. What's your favorite Christmas music?
I actually came up with my 5. Let me pull it up here. I'm a big fan of Spotify. We're on Spotify, so if you don't catch this episode, listen to us on Spotify. But I had to go through Spotify's Christmas songs to kind of remind me of, some of the songs that I used to like growing up. And it's really funny that you mentioned Home Alone because 2 of my favorite Christmas songs are in that movie. Number 1 would be "Dreaming of a White Christmas" by the Drifters that he does the famous scene on.
Yep.
And then he later in the movie he plays "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree" by Brenda Lee. Really like that one. Then there's some others that aren't from that movie that I like. 3 would be "Let It Snow" by Dean Martin. Mm-hmm. Number 4 would be "Rudolph, Run, Rudolph, Run" by Chuck Berry.
Okay.
And then my last one, I'm not totally sure if this is off the wall or whatever, but the Alvin and Chipmunks Christmas song.
Oh yeah, I love Alvin and the Chipmunks. And I will actually say too, another controversial take that I have is that the Drifters are better than the Four Seasons. That usually starts a fight with somebody as well. But I'm a big Drifters fan, and I do like all of those songs. Again, I love Christmas, so I love all the songs that you just mentioned. But I did have a different top 5, and I did not put them in order. But these are my favorite Christmas songs. Every year when the season rolls around, these are the things that I look forward to. "Oh Holy Night," which is in Home Alone as well. The kids are all singing it in the choir. A choir does sing it best, but if you're going with an individual "Oh Holy Night," it is going to be Celine Dion for me. It has the best version of that. The next song I have on here, "Dominic the Donkey," is a fun one. We sing that all year round because it's fun. "Feliz Navidad," also a fun Christmas song.
I like that one.
And then 2 that are kind of not traditional Christmas songs, but "Christmas Everywhere" by Alan Jackson is a wonderful Christmas song about just let it be Christmas everywhere, that holiday music fill the air. It's great. Love it. And then, of course, "So This Is Christmas" by John Lennon, which is also called "The War Is Over" for some reason. But yeah, those would be my favorite Christmas songs. Those are the ones that always get me in the mood for Christmas.
I'm really glad that you didn't say Mariah Carey.
I don't mind it. I just not one of my favorites. "I'm a grandfather of 4. I'm Christmased out." Hey, I hear you, John. 'Tis the season. I never get Christmased out. I will be singing Christmas songs into July, and I just love them. It is my favorite time of year. Now, before we dive into the football topics, I did want to, because you reminded me, we got to remind people, follow us on social media. That would be at NFL Experts Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at NFL Experts Pod on TikTok, or email us nflexpertspod@gmail.com. We'll read your question or comment on the air as it so should be. So definitely make sure you're chilling with us there. Let's dive into some football topics. I know we're dying to get into some of these, and we are going to kick things off with the Ravens and the 49ers, a potential Super Bowl matchup that happened. And I am going to get your take on it here. I do have a take that may or may not be controversial on it, but my supercomputer rankings, which are back, will back me up on this. But what were your thoughts kind of watching this game play out 33-19? I know you messaged me during the game because I was getting ready for bed. But what were you thinking kind of watching this game?
I got to tell you, I'm really glad that this game happened after our last podcast because we were debating the MVP. I think this game solidifies Lamar Jackson as the MVP. I know you probably have some arguments against that.
Oh, I will.
But I'm going to tell you why he's the MVP. He's 20-1 against the whole NFC. He wins 80% of his games. This year, he lost his tight end. He has a non-consistent left tackle. He's on his 3rd running back. He's got his best receiver is a rookie who has the consistent drops. How can you not tell me that he's not the MVP?
So, well, for starters, he's got 4 really good receivers, which is 4 more than the Patriots have. So I can't really throw any stones or say anything bad about his receiving core, because we're looking at Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and Zay Flowers, which is a really nice 1 through 4 at the wide receiver position. But the reason I say that, Brock Purdy is still my MVP despite this loss and despite the 4 interceptions is the fact that his stats are just better. He's got more touchdowns. He's got a better touchdown to interception ratio. He's got more passing yards. He's got a better completion percentage. Everything he does at quarterback is better than Lamar Jackson. And even when you look at their total yards, because you can bring up Lamar's rushing yards and adding that to his passing yards, he still has fewer yards than Brock Purdy.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the all-star cast that Purdy has.
I just named 4 wide receivers. He's got Deebo Samuel,
Odell
Brandon
Beckham's
Ayuk.
old. Aguilar is a retread from many teams who can't stay consistent. Like I said, Zay Flowers is his best wide receiver.
Okay. And Zay Flowers is a really good wide receiver.
But I'm just saying that he has the drops. Like I said, everything I just named. He lost his tight end. He doesn't have a very good left tackle. He's on his 3rd running back. He's got nothing. And he's still doing all of this. And he beat the 49ers, who we both agree is the best team in the NFL.
Right. And still is the best team in the NFL. I did say that, in the Super Bowl, I would hope that the Ravens would win and Lamar would win and win the Super Bowl MVP, because I'm a huge Lamar fan. And I hate that you're making me, for the 2nd week in a row, poo-poo Lamar Jackson.
Yes, I am, Wayne. Yes, I am.
But he's just not as good as Brock Purdy, or he hasn't had as good a season this year as Brock Purdy has had. I do think that you're right to a degree that he does mean more to his team than maybe Brock Purdy means to his team.
Yes.
But that's where the muddy waters happen with the MVP award in general. Does it go to the best player in the league? Does it go to the guy who has the best season? Does it go to the guy who has the best season for a good team? Does it go to the guy who's on the best team? How do we determine, who gets it? And for me, it's the guy who has the best season on a good team. And right now, the best quarterback in the NFL is Brock Purdy this season, which means that he should get the MVP.
All right, then we need to have a bet or something if Lamar wins MVP.
I'm not saying what's going to happen. I'm saying who should happen.
I'm just saying you're wrong.
Okay, well, and I think that you are as right about this as you are about Die Hard. And I did want to, so I mentioned, and you mentioned as well, that the 49ers, I said that 49ers are still the best team in the NFL. And even looking at this game here, obviously those 5 interceptions total, 4 for Purdy, killed the 49ers in this game, because the 49ers had more yards, more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play, fewer punts. It was just those turnovers that killed them. And that's going to kill any team, but watching this game and going through the stats after the game, I just feel like the 49ers are still better than the Ravens, even though they lost this game.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. It's like one of those terms, like if they play 10 times, the Ravens might only beat them twice, or whatever, how that goes. I agree with that. I still think 49ers are good, but I'm just saying that that's really showed something of Lamar, him beating that best team.
Now, I did have to bring up this because this came up in one of the chats. Before I do, I'm actually going to bring up a comment here from Mark. It says, LJ and the Ravens are obviously better than, well, not obviously. They're actually not better. So there's nothing obvious about it. They are the worst team, or not the worst team. They're worse than the 49ers. I mean, they beat them. They had a good game. They got the 4 turnovers. I don't think that happens again.
Maybe in the Super Bowl.
Maybe. I did want to ask you about Brock Purdy, because one of the debates I had recently on social media at NFL Experts Pod is that, somebody said, Brock Purdy, can a system quarterback win the MVP? Just asking for a friend. And I said, all quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. And that didn't go over well. They're like, no, that's not true. But isn't it? I mean, Lamar Jackson won unanimous MVP running the RPO. That's a system. Tom Brady.
No, I would agree. I would totally agree with you that every quarterback that's good is a system quarterback. Just like we were talking about the whole game changer, game manager thing. You want to be a game manager. That's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. You play in a system. I mean, Peyton Manning took his system to Denver. Tom Brady took his system to Tampa, because they were just so used to running that system. All quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. That's why the Jets went and got 7 Green Bay Packers to play with Aaron Rodgers, because they want people who can run his system.
Yeah, that's also Nate Hackett running that system, but I'm not going to talk about that. Next topic, please.
All right. Let's actually, what's funny is I skipped our top topic. Our top topic.
I was waiting for you,
actually,
Wayne.
Russell Wilson and Yeah, it is Russell Wilson, and I did have the graphic. I'm going to add the graphic here. I'll let you get started because this is a Russell Wilson topic that you're passionate about. He is benched for the rest of the year in favor of Jarrett Stidham, and Sean Payton is saying that the reason for that is to give a spark to the offense. So, what is your thought on that? While I grab this picture.
All right, Wayne. So I'm going to unload on all of our fans here because I'm a Bronco fan. This happened to my team, happened to my quarterback, my coach. So let me just air out some grievances like we were talking about in Festivus, right? Yep. Okay. Things I don't like about this whole thing. Number one, Sean Payton comes out and says that we need a spark offensively and we're going to do anything to win. And it has nothing to do with it being financial. I'm sorry. Bullshit. You know that he's owed $37 million by March and you don't want him injured, which another thing I don't understand is they have him as the backup quarterback, which Jarrett Stidham could still get hurt and he can still come in the game and possibly get hurt and then screwing this whole thing all together, which I don't understand why the Broncos are doing that. Okay. Besides that, the second thing, the Broncos, who is their best option after this? Jarrett Stidham? I don't think he's the guy. I truly don't. He might be good for these next two games. And Sean Payton keeps pumping him up, saying, oh, look at the Niners game, look at the Chiefs game last year, blah, blah, blah. I still don't think he's the answer. So in my eyes, as a fan, I look at it as like, oh, great. We're in quarterback purgatory again, like we were the last 7 years before we got Russell Wilson. So it's like, what do we do now? Do we get a quarterback? Do we draft a quarterback? Do we run with Stidham? Like, what do we get a veteran? Like, we've done all of those. The only thing the Broncos have never done is draft a quarterback and develop him. That's what they need to do. And that's the only option I will accept as a fan. Then a rant is done.
All right, perfect. Well, I do have a Mark did comment one last thing about the Ravens and how they scouted the Niners offense in a way to create those turnovers. Just like every other team that creates turnovers, they all scout the opponent. He does say everything about the benching was about money. Absolutely. I mean, everything I read about this is it has to do with if he gets hurt, then they're on the hook for him for 2 years or something like that versus 1 year. They're on the hook for him next year no matter what.
That was already guaranteed. This guarantee that's coming up is for the next season. So they're trying to avoid that so that before that kicks in.
And to answer your quarterback question, this is where I'm going to go big time conspiracy theory just because it's fun, right? But how about this? So they're not going to draft a quarterback in this draft because of where they're going to be drafting. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a guy there that's going to be the game changer.
Nope.
However, in the following draft, if you decide to start Jarrett Stidham for an entire season and go 2-15, right? You've got a Colorado Buffalo, Shadur Sanders, who could play in Denver.
That is a good conspiracy theory there, Wayne. I like that.
But it means stinking next year, though.
You know, if it gets a Shadur, I would be okay with that.
Okay. But yeah, I read about this, the benching. I understand it. Listen, the NFL is a business. I never side with the players or the owners per se. I just say, listen, it's a business and this is the way businesses are run. The thing that surprises me is this, I know it's about money, but moving on from Russell Wilson, this has to be a Sean Payton thing because I think that he came in after Russ was traded for and signed, right? So Russ isn't his guy. So it makes me wonder, like, is that what this is about? Because why would you want to get rid of a guy who essentially is having one of the best years of his career?
This is what I think. See, Wayne, you're not in here. You're not in Denver, so you don't hear all the media stuff. But I've been listening to it all week long, listening to everything, everybody's point and takes. And the one take that I got from, like, that I remember and it stuck in my head was that Sean Payton would rather lose in his system than try to create a system for Russell Wilson. What do you think about that?
I don't get it because let's say Sean Payton's quote unquote system was what he ran in New Orleans with Drew Brees, right? Russell Wilson's the perfect quarterback to run that system. He's got the same height disadvantage. He still is a rollout guy. You have to run a spread offense for him. Like Payton's system works for Russell Wilson. What about Russell Wilson doesn't fit Sean Payton's system?
I got to disagree with you, Wayne. Like I know I did my whole rant there, but and I love my team. And so now no matter what, Russ is going to be gone and Sean Payton's our guy. So I got to run with Sean and I got to be confident in Sean and his decisions and him going forward in the future. And I got to hope that whatever guy he finds is going to be the guy that works. The only thing that gives me hope is that he took Drew Brees when he was after he came from San Diego, who nobody wanted, turned him into this MVP. And then after Drew Brees left, he even got good games out of McNown when he was the backup for Drew Brees. Besides that, then he had Teddy Bridgewater, who won games, Jameis Winston, who won games. So he can take quarterbacks and do like crazy things with them and make them good. Like he basically turned Russ back into the normal Russ that we saw this year that we didn't see last year. So I feel like that he's going to get the best out of whoever his guy is going to be. That's why I really hope that he drafts a guy that he really wants, develops him, and that's our guy.
Yeah, I do have to put Mark's comment up here. He disagrees with us. He says, Sanders, no thank you, not even on the practice squad. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft next year. I mean, he works out in the offseason with Tom Brady. He's got all the advantages of being a legit superstar quarterback. So he also says, sadly, there won't be a high caliber quarterback. That's what I'm just saying, is that, there's no high caliber pick this year. That's why you got to wait till 2024.
So that's kind of why I agree with your theory, because we probably are gonna suck next year bad. I don't see Stidham winning more than 2 games, like he just said. So if that's the case, we'll have a better pick in 2025. So
now, I do have to press you for an answer on my question though, which is I know you're rooting for Sean Payton to do well, and I totally understand that. But my question is, what about Russell Wilson's game does not fit Sean Payton's system?
Okay, Russell is the type of quarterback that he eyes the rush too much, and his eyes go downwards before looking at the rest of the field. So when he doesn't look at the rest of the field, he loses like a certain percentage of receivers when he finally comes back up to throw at him, and by the time it's probably too late. Second, Sean Payton's offense is all based on throwing to the middle of the field. He made a living off throwing to the middle of the field to freaking Marquez Colston, to Michael Thomas. Dude, he owns the middle of the field. And with Russ, he didn't have that. Russ could not throw the ball in the middle of the field. You can blame us that we didn't have a tight end. I just don't think that's part of his game. It never really has been. And I think Sean Payton got to the point where he was just like, dude, how many times have I told you to do this in my offense and you can't do it? And I think that's what that whole blow up was in the Detroit game.
Okay. Well, then I would actually make the case that Sean Payton's not a very good football coach. Because growing up playing football, I remember I asked my coach in high school, I said, we ran a lot of run plays. Like our quarterback ran the option like almost every play. And I asked my coach, I said, why don't we run more of like a 2-3 wide receiver set and drop back and throw passes? And my coach said something to me that I'll never forget. He said, good coaches build offenses around their personnel. They don't try to fit square pegs into circle holes. You know what I mean? They build the holes that fit their players. They go, so we don't have a quarterback that can do that. That's why we don't do that. So Sean Payton, like you said, he doesn't want to build an offense around Russ, but a good coach would. A good coach would say, this is what you do well. Let's build something around that.
I think that's one of Payton's big mistakes here, is that when he came here, I don't think this is my conspiracy theory, Wayne, is I think when he came here, I don't think he was ever really trying to build around Russ. Never was. He didn't bring him weapons that he needed. If he really wanted us to take advantage of the middle of the field, how come he didn't bring in a tight end, someone better than Troutman, someone that's actually a receiving tight end? He didn't bring in anything to help him. So I think in some weird way that he was trying to, I wouldn't say sabotage, but he knew that he's like, I'm not going to do anything to help him because I'm going to bring in my guy.
I don't know who his guy is, so we'll see.
No, nobody knows, Wayne, and that's what Bronco Country is debating over right now. Is we don't know who the guy's going to be. We're just hoping for the best, but we're going back in the QB purgatory. Like I said, it sucks.
Keeping it in the division, we do have the Chiefs lost to the Raiders 20-14. This one actually surprised me quite a bit. And I know the Raiders have actually been playing pretty well since making a switch at coach. But when I say playing well, I mean they've been winning games. By all accounts, the Raiders were outplayed in every single aspect of the game. And this one, like the 49ers game, came down to turnovers. And the Chiefs have been turnover prone this year. That's been their Achilles heel. They had 2 turnovers in this game. That's what cost them. They lost by a touchdown, less than a touchdown. But every other aspect, they beat them on yards. They beat them on first downs. They beat them on, punts. They beat them on turnover. I mean, not turnovers. Turnovers is what cost them. Raiders didn't have a single turnover. But again, there's one situations where obviously the Chiefs are still a better team than the Raiders. But this was a knife in the heart of the Chiefs because they were trying to get some sort of home field advantage. Now you're looking at a wild card.
Yeah. Can we agree that this is probably Mahomes' most disappointing loss and possibly his most disappointing season as a quarterback?
I'll say yes, but here's the thing: is that it's disappointing by Mahomes' standard, but every other quarterback in the league would take the season that he's having. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I'm just saying, by his standards, this is really bad for him, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And so I would say that too. He's got no weapons, dude. Like he's got, dude. Their whole MO this year has been double Kelsey, and Mahomes got no one to throw to. And I've been seeing it week after week after week, and they have done nothing to improve it. So I'm really surprised, dude. Like they were saying today on one of the shows I listened to that they lose the next two and the Raiders win the next two. Raiders win the division. I would never have thought that in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but Dan, and then I don't know, does Pierce get a contract extension to be the head coach?
If he wins the division, you got to give it to him, right?
I would think so. I mean, who else are you going to get to coach that franchise?
I know. I'm just like, Mark Davis will still do Mark Davis thing, and then he'll hire someone else. Watch.
So I did want to, after we talk about quarterbacks, you brought this one up, Baker Mayfield, having a resurgence of sorts in Tampa Bay, having a great season with them. I actually went through the stats, and Baker Mayfield is having the best season of his career this year. And what's interesting is that at the end of the season, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, as is Mike Evans. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have $47 million in cap space for next year. I feel like Baker Mayfield has earned a $40 million a year payday with like the top guys getting 55 and 60. I think Baker Mayfield has earned a $40 million a year contract.
Dude, Wayne, I'm party on. I'm glad you said that because that was going to be my point is I think he's totally earned himself a contract extension. They paid him $4 million this year, which is like a nothing contract because they're still paying dead money for Tom Brady after last year. And for him to come in and play like he did and play as well as he has, like granted, the NFC South is terrible, but he is the best quarterback in that division. And like, I've always been, I guess, secretly, I wouldn't say secretly, but I've always been a fan of Baker. I've always liked his attitude. I really thought he got a bad deal in Cleveland with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. So I'm really glad to see him doing well. And it just sucks for me because like I would really love to see him in a Broncos uniform next year. But I know that that's not going to happen, and Tampa's going to lock him down.
Yeah, the Broncos, because they're still going to be paying Russ $40 million. They're not going to have a choice to pay this guy.
Exactly.
But the thing that is surprising to me, and this is my only thing, because I like Baker Mayfield as well. And the New England Patriots, I know that they were really after Baker Mayfield when he was the number one pick in the draft. They had offered several first-round picks to get that top pick because both McDaniels and Belichick loved Baker Mayfield.
I do remember that.
Arm. Yeah, he's got a good arm. He slings it around the field. My only criticism of him, if I'm scouting him, is unlike Mahomes, who you can take away all of Mahomes' weapons, and he's still going to have 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in this year, which is a bad year for him. He can carry a team at the quarterback position. I don't think Baker Mayfield can. I think he has Mike Evans and he has Chris Godwin. And if you decide to let Mike Evans walk and he's only got Godwin, and looking at the rest of the receivers and the running backs on that team, I don't think Baker Mayfield is Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think he can carry that team. So I think as he starts to lose weapons, he starts to look more and more like Cleveland Baker than he does Tampa Baker.
But do you think, granted, that's some good points, Wayne, like totally. But do you think he'll stay in Tampa, or do you think because of that he might leave? That's a good point.
I think it will come down to Evans, right? Can they re-sign Evans first? And then that way he has Evans and he has Godwin to throw to. But also, what is their game plan, right? Like, what do they want to do going forward?
Like you said, they have money, so they can go and get some pieces in free agency.
Well, they've got $47 million. So if they give him 40 and they give 7 to, Mike Evans, they've got nothing in free agency. So, I mean, I know they'll structure the contracts in a way that makes more sense than that, but they don't have a ton of money. And I'm curious what their end game is, because I don't think they're a team that's really great. I mean, they're probably going to win the division this year, but it's a bad division. And you're going to tell me that you're going to bring Baker back next year rather than start a rebuild in a division that has Atlanta, Atlanta's a quarterback away from being 11-6 on a season. So
they said the same thing about the Broncos being a quarterback away also. So I wouldn't necessarily just say that.
I mean, they're in position still, it's a long shot, but I don't know. So For me, if I'm the Buccaneers, it's a tough decision for me. I don't know if I want to bring him back at that because I don't think he's my franchise guy, even though he's still only 28 years old. So he could be your franchise guy. I just haven't seen, not even this season, which is his best season so far, I haven't seen him show me something that says this guy can carry my team.
I would agree with you on that. He needs pieces around him. Like when he was in Cleveland in his first playoff game win, he had a lot of pieces around him. So I would totally agree with that.
I mean, he's a very good quarterback. Yeah, if you bring him to a team that has receivers, I think that he's going to look really well.
So coming to the close on that, I hope that Tampa doesn't want him and he comes to Denver. Come on, let's do it. I'm going to put that into existence.
But then Russ goes to Tampa and wins the Super Bowl as a Buccaneer.
Shut up, Wade.
Because he's going to be playing for $1 million a year. All right, so the Dolphins are surging, right? The Dolphins, yes. You said this actually to me that the Dolphins were surging, but I was looking into this. They are 11-4 in the season. They've won 2 in a row against the Jets and the Cowboys. And yes, the Cowboys are a decent team, but the Jets are not. Prior to that, they have wins against the Raiders, the Jets, and the Commanders, and a loss to the Titans. I don't really think they're surging. I think this is a team.
I say surging in the sense that they've won the last 2, like you said. But they have the chance, and this is going to be my point, is that they have the chance to win the number 1 seed in the AFC. But they have to win the next 2 games for that to happen.
Okay, and I didn't pull up who their next 2 games are again. Do you have that, the next 2 games for them?
No. Sorry, I should have. But I do not. I know they have like some tough 2 games, if I remember right.
I was just looking at what they've done, and all season long they've been a team that beats up.
Yeah, they got the Ravens. They have the Ravens and the Bills, so they have some tough 2 games, man.
Yeah, okay, so they're going to finish 11-6. I don't think they win either one of those games. They're just a team that doesn't beat good teams. I mean, they played the Cowboys, they beat the Cowboys barely. But that's what happens against good teams is they can stay in it, but they usually don't win those games. And the games that they do win are the Jets and the Raiders and the Commanders and the Chargers. Those are the teams that they beat up on.
But Wayne, there is an interesting scenario though. If they lose to Baltimore, and then they have to play the Bills. So basically, if they lose to the Ravens, they're going into that last game against the Bills, basically fighting for the AFC East.
Right, and the Bills could win the AFC East.
Yeah,
right. And I would predict that they do.
So I was just saying, like, that's going to be a really interesting game.
Jim Powell says Ravens. Jim, you missed it. We talked about the Ravens early in the show there. And he also says the Bills. I agree with you. I think the Bills are going to win the AFC East. I think that the Dolphins lose the next 2 games, and I think the Bills win the AFC East.
So that was only my point, is that they have the possibility of maybe winning the number 1 seed, but it's all if they win.
Okay. Well, the one that you did send to me that I agree with you on here is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are in disarray. Jacksonville Jaguars wreckage is what I have written down here. They've lost.
That was my word. Let's be honest. I only said wreckage.
It was your word. Yeah, wreckage was your word. They've lost 4 games in a row. I mean, to the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Bucks, all of whom aren't bad teams. The Bengals, you could say, are borderline, but the Browns and Ravens, elite defenses. The Bucks are playing well. We just mentioned them. So I don't know. Is this really wreckage for them? Like, aren't these games that if they lose them, it's kind of like, well, I mean, it's not a big deal to lose those, other than the Bengals game.
Okay, so this is what I'm referring to when I refer to as wreckage. They've lost 5 out of the last 7. They've lost the last 4 in a row. They don't protect it very well. They can't run the ball. Trevor Lawrence is probably the most beat up quarterback in the league, and I'll tell you why. He had a knee injury first, then an ankle injury, then a concussion, and now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. Like, the dude's beat up. Like, tell me that this team isn't totally like on a downfall right now.
I mean, yeah, they're not trending in the right direction, especially with all the losses. And obviously you want Trevor Lawrence to be healthy, because without a healthy Trevor, he really is the team. I mean, without him, it's pretty much all over.
Agreed. And so, like, granted, they're in a terrible division. They might not even win their division.
Jim says, we forgive you, Mark. Your world is upside down right now, and Wilson will be in Pittsburgh next year. Interesting. Take a breath, son.
No,
I think, they're definitely trending the wrong way. And if Trevor is hurt and his shoulder is hurt and his knee and his ankle are hurt and he's dealing with a concussion, their season's pretty much over. Even if they do win the division, I don't think that they make it very far. I do think Trevor Lawrence is an elite quarterback. He's in the conversation as a top 5 quarterback in the league when healthy, but unhealthy, that's it. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars are the Jacksonville Lawrences.
But I thought the Jags had pieces. Like, what happened?
They've got a good defense. They do have a good defense, and they have Calvin Ridley there, who has been having an okay season. Etienne, is a good running back.
That's what I mean. They have good pieces there. It's like, is it Doug Peterson?
No. I think you need a healthy Trevor Lawrence.
But I'm saying the team around is what was causing them to not be healthy.
Well, right. I'm saying that he's been hit a few times too many, but that's not Etienne's fault. It's not Ridley's fault. And that's not the defense's fault. Yes, the offensive line.
Because the coach.
It's not the coach's fault either. Like, if the offensive line can't block it. Otherwise, if I say it is the coach, then you're going to make me a hypocrite when we talk about the Patriots. And I have to say it's the Bills' fault that, the offensive line sucks in New England, and it's not his fault.
I think I'm learning how you think, Wayne. I'm learning.
Let's see. Jim to say Lawrence was given too much elite status way too. I don't know about that.
I kind of agree with that, Jim. I kind of agree with that. Everybody called him a generational quarterback. I'm not totally sure I'm seeing that.
He is a generational quarterback in this sense, which is that he's the best draft prospect since Andrew Luck, who was the best since Peyton Manning. He was a guaranteed, hit. Like, how you talk about the draft is kind of a crapshoot. You never know how a guy's going to play out. You knew that Trevor Lawrence was going to be a NFL Pro Bowler. You knew it, and there was no chance he wouldn't be. No matter, barring injury, there was no chance he wouldn't be. And so far, he's lived up to the hype. And but he has to stay healthy, just like Lamar Jackson. Lamar to me is elite. I mean, elite, like top 3 elite. But Lamar has to be healthy in these playoffs for them to win.
Well, I don't necessarily think Lawrence is elite yet. He's still got to prove it to me.
Well, what is your criteria? I'd like to bring up criteria this episode. What would be your criteria of an elite quarterback?
Well, like I said, like not lose, like all those stats I just named. A good quarterback doesn't do that.
Doesn't get hurt.
No, doesn't lose 5 out of 7. I mean, and then lose 4 in a row. Those things, like the quarterback is essential piece of that team, and he made some bad decisions, and it can't be all just because he was hurt.
Well, no, but I'm saying that you're going to put the losses all on Trevor Lawrence and not the defense giving up, 40 points per game or 30 points per game, but Trevor Lawrence, who had 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions and averaged 250 yards passing per game, pretty much doing his part, and yet we're going to put the onus on these 5 losses on him. I'm saying that it is kind of on him in the sense that he is the team. So, like, if he's unhealthy, that team is not going to win. But I think that he has played well in all of those losses, and I think he will continue to play well throughout the season, and he will be a Pro Bowl named quarterback.
I totally agree with you, Wayne. Like, in all of that, he's generational quarterback. Honestly, the reason I kept bringing up the coach is I really think a lot of it's Doug Peterson. He's making a lot of decisions that aren't the right decisions. Maybe if he's hurt, he should sit for a couple games, or something like.
But your playoff,
he's not doing the right thing for the team.
But he is doing the right thing for the team because I don't know who their backup is. Can you name their backup?
CJ Beathard. Like I said, they might not even make the playoffs.
Okay, well. That's what I'm saying. Is that your best bet to make the playoffs is to keep rolling them out there, and you're really not doing the best thing for him, but you're doing the best thing for the team.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that I think Doug Peterson's made some bad decisions, and I don't think it's all on Trevor Lawrence. Even though, like you say, it's a Jacksonville Lawrence's or whatever. I think like a lot of these decisions come to the head coach. It's like I think I've been thinking about the whole Peyton thing this whole week. A lot of decisions come down to the coach, man, and so maybe. That 1 week when he had a knee injury, maybe he should have sat out. That was earlier in the season, and maybe he would have got some rest, and he wouldn't have been like more injured. I don't know. I'm just saying that there's been some bad decisions made. There's a reason why they've lost as much as they have.
Well, Jim does say elite isn't a few years; it's a great span of top performances, at least 5 years in the making, and this is for quarterback only. So I'd say, Jim, that's your personal individual criteria. My criteria for elite is 1 season. Really, if you display an elite ability, which is why after 1 season as the starter, Kurt Warner was an elite quarterback in the NFL after just 1 year because he displayed elite ability. I think Trevor Lawrence has already displayed that, which is why I consider him elite. And I think obviously Lamar Jackson, who could potentially, and I'm not betting against it, win his second MVP this year, has definitely shown he's been elite as well. Obviously, there are running backs that are elite that don't get to make 5 years. That's because running backs in general aren't elite positions. That's why they don't make it 5 years. Okay, let's jump into another topic here. Yay, power rankings. The supercomputer is back. Obviously, we do that one last. I'm excited to go over some of those. But Mark, I'll throw some of your rankings up here on the screen. You sent them over to me earlier today. We did post them on social media at NFL Experts Pod. So check those out if you want to see the graphic. Ravens number 1, I get it. They just beat the 49ers. Dolphins number 2, I don't get it. 49ers number 3 should be ahead of the Dolphins. And then the Eagles way too high at 4. Lions, Browns, Cowboys, Bills, Chiefs, and Rams. And then you have the outside looking in. You have the Bucks, the Texans, the Jaguars, the Bengals, and the Seahawks. I wanted to get your thoughts really on some of these rankings. What goes into the mindset here? Because the Bills are on fire right now. So, if it's just based on recency bias, they should be a lot higher. The Eagles should be a lot lower. Kind of how do the Eagles end up in 4, and how the heck do the Dolphins end up at 2?
Okay, so I put the Dolphins 2 because, like I was saying, they're surging. They're surging my end, but I'm saying right now they're surging. And if they do win the next 2 games, they could be the number 1 seed in the AFC West. So they could be talked about as a top team. I took the Niners down as peg because they lost. They lost to the Ravens. They got beat horribly, so they got knocked down. I told you my criteria. You mentioned this word a few times during this podcast, so I'm going to say my criteria for my power rankings are the last week if they won or lost, your record, and then your overall play the last 3 or 4 weeks. So the recency, I guess. And that's what I base it off of. So I honestly, I agree with you about the Eagles. I almost dropped them down below the Lions because I was like, I don't know, but they won. You got to go with the teams that win. They're the positive teams that are on the positive trajectory. So that's kind of why I always pick teams that win to go higher in the rankings, and the teams that lose lower in the rankings.
Now, Mark, you can be honest with us.
The reason why the Bills are low is because they're not even in the playoffs yet. They need to get in the playoffs. They're not even in the playoff. They're in the playoff picture, but they're not in the playoff seeding yet. Till they get in the seeding, I will put them higher in the rankings.
So be honest with us. You work for the college football playoff, don't you?
Why do you say that, Wayne?
Because you're the type of person that would leave Florida State out and then be like, hey, well, the reason they didn't make it in is because they're not a playoff team.
Honestly, you're right. I probably wouldn't. If I was on the committee, I wouldn't have put Florida State on there. Hot take.
Well, let's go to some power rankings that are based on numbers. That's right. It wasn't there last week, but it is there today. The supercomputer rankings are out, and they look like so. The 49ers in first place still, but much closer gap now. Remember how big that gap was a few weeks ago. Now that gap is very small. We got the 49ers followed by the Ravens, the Cowboys at 3, then the Dolphins at 4, the Bills, Lions, Browns, Rams, Eagles, and Chiefs round out the top 10. The worst team in the league by almost double is the Commanders, then the Panthers. The Panthers have avoided being the worst team, but they're still pretty bad. All right, so what thoughts do you have here? Looking at these power rankings, obviously the 49ers number 1. You and I can disagree on that, even though we both agree that they're the best team in the NFL earlier in the show.
I do agree, like I said, but they lost bad to the Ravens, so they get knocked down. They might get back up the next one. They got to win. That's how it goes. Your rankings, I think they're pretty spot on. I noticed that there's a lot more negative teams. Is that correct?
I don't think there's actually more positive teams. There's 17 positive teams and there's 15 negatives.
Okay, for some reason it seemed like there was more negatives. Maybe I looked at it wrong.
Nope. So it's about half. It's been about half and half all season.
Okay, so who is the biggest? I'm gonna ask like I've asked every episode. What's the biggest rise? Who's the biggest drop?
Well, again, we haven't done these in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to say that the biggest drop to me has to be the Denver Broncos at negative 93.44.
Of course, you had to say that, Wayne. God damn you!
They're almost as bad as the Raiders. The Raiders are 3 points behind them.
Shaking my head.
The Eagles have fallen all the way down to 9. Now, if you've been following the show, then you know that the Eagles never made it above 4th. So that's the highest they were all season. So not a huge drop for them. The Chiefs at 10. The Lions, I think at one point were up around 2 or 3.
The Dolphins, how much did they raise?
Not much. I think the Dolphins might have been 4th or 5th a couple weeks ago. The point-wise went up a lot. The 212.91 is a big jump point-wise, but position-wise, it's not. The 49ers did drop about 40 points, but they still stay in the lead. Again, now instead of having a 60 or 70 point lead on the number 2 team, they're only 16 points ahead of the Ravens. So I'm thinking if all things play out the way that they should, the 49ers will still finish with the number 1 in the power rankings.
I can see that because they pretty much demolish teams they do play whenever they don't lose to the Ravens. Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, I do agree with your. I do think they're the best team in the NFL. I'm just saying that this week they're not number 1.
Okay. And then, of course, Mark, you owe me $1 because the New England Patriots beat the Denver Broncos 26-23 last week. I don't know if you want to talk about at first. We're both talking about the same thing, kind of. I don't know if you want to go first. You want me to revel a little bit first?
You go for it, man. I said my piece earlier about my rant, but go for it.
So I'm excited. Obviously, Bailey Zappi, since being the starter, has been doing really well. His last 3 games, he's completed 68%, 74%, and 76% of his passes. So don't feel bad. It's not just the Broncos that took the Zappi beating. Zappi's been beaten up on everybody as a starting quarterback. I wrote articles about this at the beginning of the season. He should have been the starter from day 1. I think it was a mistake to go with Mac Jones early on. They would probably be a playoff team right now if they'd gone with Zappi at first light. Against the Broncos, 25 of 33, 256, 2 touchdowns, looked great. I mean, throwing really good balls all over the field. So I like that. The one downside to the win, Chad Ryland is just garbage. He kicked the game-winning field goal, but he missed an early one. I think he's missed like 9 or 10 field goals this year, and he was a 4th-round pick. They traded up to get him. So that's a bad pick. But otherwise, I'm really happy to see Zappi doing well. It did drop us from the 2nd pick to the 4th pick. But I'm okay with that if it means that Zappi, as I texted you when this was happening, I said Zappi is saving Bill Belichick's job right now. And if Zappi wins these last 2 games, if you're Robert Kraft, I don't know how in any way, shape, or form you can move on from Bill Belichick.
Do you think in some way Bill's like sticking it to the Patriots and he's like, I'm not going to have the top pick. I'm going to screw that over for you guys and then bounce out the door?
No, I don't think he's sticking it to them at all in this sense right now. I do think he stuck it to them earlier, which may have been what cost him his job if it does, which is that Robert Kraft loves Mac Jones. That's Robert Kraft's guy. And Bill Belichick likes Bailey Zappi. And there was talk that Zappi was going to be the starter week 1. However, Robert Kraft stepped in, said, I want Mac Jones. And when Mac played poorly and got benched, the reason he didn't stay benched is because Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft came to his defense and said, this is our guy. We drafted him in the 1st round. You got to give him more than one bad game. And so I think after that 2nd bad performance, they gave him the green light to bench Mac, and Bill Belichick, out of spite, kept starting Mac Jones intentionally to rub it in their face how bad Mac was.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. Somewhat sabotage.
Again, not to do things badly for the team, but just to kind of like every time he would throw an interception, like look up at the owner's box, like, yeah, see.
Okay, this is my take from the game, Wayne, is that I thought the game was over. We were down 21, whatever. Didn't think we were going to come back. We came back somehow. Russ miraculously comes back. This is what I don't get, is that we go into the 2-minute offense, we tie the game, and then we go back into that stupid offense, like whatever it is that Sean Payton wants to run with Russ, throws screens, we go 3 and out. It's like we give the ball to the Patriots. And you guys were gashing us on big plays all night. Like, we were stopping you, but then every so often you guys would get a big gash play on us. And it's like they're doing this on us all night. And then Sean Payton continues to call timeouts thinking we're going to get the ball back. It's like, we're not getting the ball back. They're going to gash us again, and the game is over. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely Bill had his number. Zappi had the number. So, again, I'm happy as a Patriots fan. I thought I wanted them to lose the rest of the year, but watching Zappi play good makes me too happy. So I love seeing Zappi play well. I was puzzled when you were mentioning to me the Russell Wilson thing, and I saw that Russ got benched because I was like, he didn't really play bad in this game either. He had 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and then it's like, all right, well, we need to spark the offense. With Jarrett Stidham, I don't know if that's the spark that you're looking for.
I was going to ask you, you saw Stidham, you're a Patriots fan, what do you think of him?
Well, here's a funny thing. So one of my earliest articles that I wrote was actually called The Curious Case of Jarrett Stidham. And I was actually predicting that Jarrett Stidham was going to be the Tom Brady successor, like come in after Brady left and win games. He has a really good arm. Stidham has a great arm. He throws on the run really well. You have to remember he played at Auburn. Or initially played at, I think, Baylor and played well there, and then went to Auburn when the offensive coordinator or whatever went to Auburn. And Auburn didn't use him correctly. Like, they used him more as a running dual threat quarterback, and he's really a pocket passer. I think, though, that what he fell out of favor with Bill Belichick because he didn't care about winning as much. Like, he was kind of like, I'm not going to do what Bill says. I kind of want to do my own thing. And that the keys to the kingdom were going to be handed to him. And so I was disappointed when they went out and got Cam Newton, because I still think that Stidham was better than Cam Newton, but I don't think that Stidham is better than Russell Wilson.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. I was like, do you think he's better than Russell Wilson? Or let me ask you this. Do you think he's better in Sean Payton's system better than Russell Wilson is?
Well, no, because I said earlier, I think that Russell Wilson is the perfect quarterback for Sean Payton's system because, I don't know, he's just the perfect spread offense guy.
Like, Wayne, you think that, but Sean doesn't think that.
Well, I know that, but you're asking me my opinion. I can't ask Sean his opinion. And my opinion is that I'm right and Sean Payton is wrong.
Yeah, I don't have any more to say about that game. I'm disappointed with my whole season. Like, the only thing I will say is, Wayne, is that I kind of knew deep down that we were going to lose that game. I just had some gut subconscious feeling that we were going to blow it, and I was right. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right.
Well, again, you get a couple games left. You still could do something, right? I mean, they win both the games. What does that put them at?
Okay, so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to be asking you, like, do you really think that we have a shot to beat the Chargers and the Raiders with Stidham?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Chargers and the Raiders are terrible. So yes.
Okay, so let me throw this scenario at you. This is weird, crazy scenario, which I didn't think was a possibility. But if the Chiefs lose their next two games and we win the next two games, which means in that two games we'll beat the Raiders, we'll win the West. I don't know how that's possible. I don't think it's possible, because I don't think the Chargers are going to lose to the Chargers. They might lose to the Bengals, but I don't see them losing to the Chargers. And I don't see them not winning the division. But I'm just like, I can't believe that crazy scenario is out there, Wade.
Well, here's the crazier scenario, because everyone only remembers what happened yesterday and nobody remembers anything before that. So we're just talking about how Sean Payton's a piece of crap for what he's doing to Russell Wilson here, strictly on money reasons. And yet, if Sean Payton happens to win the West because they win the next two games and the Chiefs lose their next two games, then Sean Payton's going to be the toast of Denver and everyone's going to love him.
Exactly. I'm glad that you put that out there, because that's totally the truth. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Like, if it does, good for him, good for the Broncos, but I don't really see that happening.
And then let's say that hypothetically they do make it into the playoffs. I mean, how far do you think this team can go? I don't think they can go very far with Jarrett Stidham.
Oh, dude, they're going to get bounced in the first round if they make it. I don't see us making it, but if we back into the playoffs somehow, yeah, we're going to get spanked by who will have to play, the 2 seed, which will be either the Dolphins or the Bills or who else. No matter what, I feel like we're going to get smashed. So I don't even want to see us in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, that is our holiday show. Those were our topics that we discussed today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you are following us on all of our social media.
We didn't do the 2-minute warning, Wayne.
That was the 2-minute warning. Oh, did you have something else?
I got something else for the 2-minute warning. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go for it.
This one's a little deep and dear to my heart. This week, yesterday, I found out I used to be in a band when I was in high school. A lot of good times, a lot of good memories. Metal band. We weren't very good, but we played out some shows. It was fun time, good times. And I found out yesterday that the drummer of my band, Mike Whited Jr., passed away. And I just want to say that he was like the most amazing friend, most amazing musician. He's probably the best musician in our band. He taught me so much about music, just about life. And I just want to say, rest in peace, my friend.
Yes, well, I am sorry for your loss, and hopefully everyone else here is as well. I do have a question for you about metal music after we finish recording. And I do want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us, including Jim and Mark and John, for throwing the comments in there that we can throw up there and interacting with us. If you listen on Spotify, please join the live cast. You can participate in it like those guys. And we really appreciate everyone who's following and supporting the show. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark, for tuning in on your break. He's a teacher, so thank you, Bubba. Love you, man.
All right. And that's it. Party on, Mark.
Party on, Wayne.